Yo, what's up, y'all? This philosophical from the rap reviewer. What's going on? What's going on, y'all? First, I want to get the business out of the way. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And as you can see, we got a special guest here. And if you're an up and coming artist and you want your music reviewed here on the channel, but also you want to be interviewed here as an artist, we can definitely get that here where we give our feedback and artist feedback and kind of talk about debut albums, specific albums, and you as an artist. Man, I first want to introduce, man, we got a special guest, as I said just now, an artist, DL, man, freestyle MC, performer, author, family man, husband, and a father, man. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you coming on the
Thanks,
show,
man.
man. Really
Appreciate
thank you
it.
for coming, man. So, man, we're gonna start right into it here. Rap the demo, man. Tell us a little bit about it. This album, how it started. You as an artist. Let's go ahead and get started.
So for anybody that's curious, R.A.P the demo stands for Rap and Poetry. The Demons Exercise, Monsters Out. The album itself kind of revolves around myself battling the demons inside and the monsters that are in my head. Basically, like we all grow up doubting ourselves. We live in states of uncertainty.
Right.
We're not sure if we're making the right choices, especially being married, having
Right.
kids,
Right.
and
Right.
going to work and everything, and just everything in between. So there's a lot of times where we face a lot of pitfalls. A lot of times that I face a lot of pitfalls, and I had developed a lot of internal demons, imposter syndrome. Every day I would wake up feeling that I wasn't worthy of the position that I'm in. I see people that are busting their tails and they're not where I'm at, or like I see people on the side of the road homeless and just downtrodden, and I'm like, what is keeping me from being in that position? Just feeling like I'm not worthy of life,
Okay.
basically. And so a lot of this album kind of goes into that, and there's a lot of inner turmoil, like family and things of that nature. We all have situations with our family where we have unresolved issues to the point where eventually a lot of us get the opportunity to resolve it. But in some cases, in my case, I didn't
Okay.
get to resolve all of my issues.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what a lot of the album's about.
Kind of repeat what the acronym stands for again. You said
Okay.
Rap the demo.
Yeah, so R.A.P the demo, Rhythm and Poetry,
Okay.
The Demons Exercise, Monsters Out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm glad you said that. And we'll get to that track in a second. You've got a track on the album called Monsters with the Love, which is interesting here.
Right.
Interesting here. So let's kind of talk about, right? Let's talk about a little bit about the album cover. As I love unique album covers. Kind of talk about what this means here.
Well, I mean, as I was trying
It's obvious. It's obvious.
Yeah. So
Right.
basically, every day, this is at a point in my life where this is exactly how I felt.
Okay.
Whispers in my head, as loud as somebody talking in your ear. Like you could feel the hot, the breath just on the nape of your neck, basically, just saying that you should basically not exist anymore. No matter what you do, you were never going to get ahead.
Right.
And so, like, each one of these demons is an actual representation of every single thought that I had in my head, everything that was beating on my soul. Just I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. There are times where I was going through life and I couldn't stand the sight of myself.
Okay.
And so this is what this album cover really shows, the struggles and the battles that I was going through. But keeping my peace in two places. One, my mother, who is probably the cornerstone of strength for me internally, and my faith with God.
Right.
These are
Okay.
the two things that kept me from basically ending my own existence.
Wow. Okay. So a couple questions. All right.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling today about it?
The album,
Well, no, in general, what you just said.
like I have like I'm a completely different person.
Okay. Okay.
We all have our struggles. It's just a matter of being able to figure out how to battle and then proceeding on
Right.
to becoming victorious.
So did you feel that way prior to making this album? And did you feel that way prior to actually after the album? You know how sometimes you get that feeling after the album's made, like, man, I'm still feeling that imposter syndrome of producing it, right?
I mean, okay, so depending on what we're talking about, the imposter syndrome for me is never really going to go away until I'm still working on myself,
Right.
as I'm sure like most of us are,
Right. Right.
But this album in itself took 4 years. And
Okay.
in those 4 years, there's actually probably like another 3 years behind the thought and conception of what this album was supposed to be. So of course, 7-8 years ago, this was every day. This cover was every single day. Didn't matter if I had a smile on my face or not. This is exactly what in my head and on my very soul, this is what I was facing.
Wow. Okay. So during that process,
Yeah.
right? We mentioned earlier you were a freestyle
Yeah.
MC, and you got a couple freestyles on this album.
Yeah.
Right. What was that process like creating this album? Freestyles versus
I was
versus-
so because of the circle that you and I are in,
right,
and Soul Logic.
Right.
He was the one that was we talked about this off and on about how I should, if I was actually going to be serious about putting an album together, and we talked about this for years. So like how we've known
I remember me and you talking about it.
So we've known each other for about the span of time that
Right.
this was a thought in my head.
Right.
So like for like the last 7 years, 8
Right.
years, and all the advice and all the different suggestions about how I should go about putting this together, and then like taking the different pieces of this abstract intangible puzzle and putting it together.
Right.
Things started to click as I worked with you and as I worked with Soul Logic, as I worked with the Struck, and things were just starting to make sense. And I was actually taking something that was intangible and unseeable and actually bringing tangible light to it, and then the picture started to paint itself, and I started to take those thoughts in the way that I knew how to write, which was poetry, and then I started.
Right.
Black Sheep, probably the longest track to take to write, which was like 4 years.
Wow.
And it just went in so many different directions. So I didn't know where I was going. And it wasn't up until I would say about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
that like it fell into place. And then from there, like Just Me fell into place.
Right.
And so I recorded Just Me first, knowing that Black Sheep was probably going to be the one out of every single song that I had. I needed it to be as perfect as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about a lot of you were speaking on those thoughts you were having,
Mhm.
right? And I sympathize with that because I feel like that's normal, but it's not really talked about, not only within rap and artists, but within people.
Right.
Right. Talk about how you overcame a lot. Did the music help it do that? Was it family? Was it, how did you get through that hurt? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
So, and without like really trying to poke the bear, as a man, it's hard to be able to express your emotions outwardly, because it's a sign of weakness for some reason, even though each human being has emotions and feelings and self-realizations and self-doubts and everything. We're all the same in that way. But I would say for me, being able to find something that I was actually good at has always helped me. Just sometimes it's not the procedure that you need to fix all of your ailments, but in the moment when you're doing it, there's a moment that there's a elating where you feel elation, like where you feel good, like the weight is off your shoulders. So when I got to do music, and whenever I was pursuing music and doing it, I always felt like everything fell off my shoulders. My soul was lighter, my mind was freer, not cloudy. And it's always been, I'm always so thankful that our paths crossed, because you guys have been amazing. It's like the circle that you guys have maintained and allowing me to come in there. You've helped me improve. And so like it always showed in my freestyles, and I knew that like eventually it was gonna come to a head, whether or not I was actually gonna really get serious and write it out and really do it like a professional would, or just continue down the same path, but still being good at what I was doing. So either way, to me, it wouldn't really matter. I was still going to put out a body of work regardless. But because you guys respected me so much in what I did, and you encouraged me so much, you allowed me to get on your tracks, work with you musically. This was more of a reflection of respect to you guys and to everybody that's done music, hip hop, rap, music, any type of genre. This is just a shout of respect to everybody, because I knew that this was the public forum, the public circle that I wanted to be part of, contributing wise. When I put it out into the ether, I wanted it to be as good as I could possibly get it in that moment.
And it's good that you had a support system.
Yeah.
It's good that you had a support system, not only within, you know, our friendship, other friendships, you know, family at home.
Yeah.
And that displays on this album, you know, because I assume, you know, you got Soul Logic on here, you got your daughters on here,
Yep.
and I assume your wife is doing a lot of there's some voiceovers on here too, right? Is she
All the voiceovers were me.
all the voiceovers?
Everything was me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, except for my daughters, you know,
right.
banging on the doors and
Right,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And, right, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first heard this album, right, I was like, and I texted you. Each song has something different for me.
Yeah.
But I know, you know, from us talking, you're a big fan of Logic.
I am a big fan of Logic.
You're a big fan of Logic.
Yeah.
So when I heard this album, I was like, I know I'm gonna get some Logic. I know I'm gonna get some Logic because, but I knew it was gonna be you. You know,
yeah.
the version of Logic, but you. And this album cover reminds me of No Pressure.
Okay, yeah.
No Pressure. Exactly what and I knew I was gonna get a little bit of Logic on here. So when I heard this, right, and we'll start with the first track here, right? Intro, The Dare.
Yeah.
Right. And that's basically a conversation
yeah.
between it almost culminates what you just said before where you were being encouraged. It was almost like a conversation between you and Soul Logic.
Right.
But I also heard that it sounded like you ever feel like, or even see in the movie sometimes where an object is there but you're walking slowly towards it. It's like there was almost through the sense of the conversation you were having, you were struggling to walk into the booth.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So am I getting that right here?
Yeah, you're getting it right. Because
right.
there was a big hang up from me.
Okay.
And so this conversation that I wanted to have and put up there, because like I wanted the intro in my head was going a whole bunch of different ways. I was going to sit there and talk about the 50 years of hip hop.
Right.
But then I was like, I didn't want it to be preachy or anything like that. Right. And really, everybody knows if they sit there and listen to the whole album, how hip hop in itself has completely influenced me when it comes to me doing this thing musically.
Right.
So I wanted to showcase the overall pressure that I had in my head about doing this, getting out of my comfort zone.
Right.
And then, you know, finally at the end of it, you know, getting into the booth and I'm like, let's do it, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
and I got that. I got that too. So then it goes into Just Me.
Right.
Right. So I feel like this is where it starts off with not to be funny, but it sounds like you're giving the mic one big hug.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
I'm comfortable. I can be me.
Yeah.
And I hear it all throughout this album.
So like for Just Me,
okay,
I wanted to speak on like the influences that have like shaped and molded me as an artist, people that have given me good inspiration. I know there's just a mountain of mainstream artists and equally they're all good enough to be considered mainstream. If you're mainstream, there's a level of talent there that you have, and I've probably heard of you, but like the people that I address, Rakim, Nas, Fresh Prince, Missy Elliott, Lecrae, just going into all that, Pac, Biggie,
kind of a homage.
Yeah, this is just my way of just saying to them without actually being in their face, this is how much you've influenced me. This is how much you've made me
just me.
Yeah, just me as an artist. And so like if I'll tell you the greatest cipher, alive or transcendent, these would be all the people I'd want to have in a circle, you know, and then just put a beat on and we just freaking go at it, you know, just rapping, silly rapping, just serious rapping, whatever comes to mind, just putting it in a rhythmic form and just freaking just having a good time and just...
It'd be interesting to see what Missy does.
And you know.
And then behind the Timberland beat.
Oh my God.
Man. One of those crazy just like Timberland beats that you probably won't even hear.
I would have Tim, Just Blaze, Manny Fresh, and I'd be like, okay, we go and give you a score when you drop the beat. We'd be like, okay, that's the one we're gonna do, you know, and it just
Right. Oh man, and I'm glad you said that. So then this is where we go into off the top freestyle. Right. Is this where you felt like you wanted to kind of mix writing with the freestyle element to it?
With the title Rhythm and Poetry, for me, rap symbolizes that. from poetic aspects to people bringing rap to the forefront from the 70s up until now, it was poetic in writing just to a beat. But there's a stemming, right? And so like I wanted to showcase that, and of course I wanted to showcase my specialty.
Okay.
You know, I wanted people to know that when it comes to freestyling off the top, in my mind, there's not going to be many more people that can do it like I can.
Right, okay. and it made me think that, you know, it's been said this for a long time. It's been very few rappers that have been able to be in the freestyle, because there is an element, not saying you're a battle rapper, but there is an element of freestyling, battle rappers, and then going into it, making a concrete album. Very few. There have been artists and rappers that have done it, but are they recognized or even considered? Because a lot of it, freestyle is kind of like that beginning stages.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Of you showed who you are to gain that respect out. Like back in the day, man, you were freestyle in the streets.
Yeah.
So and even then, like I've said before, that rap was a competition at one time.
Yeah.
Rap was a way of, it still is, but it was at one time a way of living.
Yeah.
You know, shows, contests. It was the way it is today, right? It's just, you know, you come out with a hot song and you're signed within that. Like that. Back at that time, man, like you had A&Rs, people really going to the streets.
Yeah.
Right? And the community kind of told you how they felt about you through your freestyles.
Yeah.
And you notice the old trick. A lot of artists today that freestyle, and then they came out with songs. That was a first day freestyle years back. Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's what it turns into, where like you see somebody performing a certain track and they don't, and an audience that know, like, man, but the artist knows, like, man, I've been rapping this verse for 5-6 years now. And they can rap it in their sleep.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of what I got from this. Was like, man, this dude is just.
So the track number 2, it was just in the moment right there. Because literally, like I have
off the top,
freestyle. Off the top, and that's exactly what it is. It's just off the top. It's not something that I've rapped and then I was able to recall it. It's not something that I can do. It was just when I get writer's block. That's the one thing I'm sure that I can go back to and start doing it. And I will freestyle about having writer's block. And then the dam opens up, you know.
Tell us how difficult for you that freestyle versus writing. Tell us how difficult that is, as far as like, if you feel like you can't write a track, but then like you say, you feel like you can freestyle it and it just comes to you. Talk about kind of that struggle. Because I feel like that is a struggle.
There's a for me, and this is just me, there's a stress to doing something that you're not good at, right? And so writing for me to a beat, making sure that like the syllable count is going matching up with the BPM of the beat, and it's not even
technicality.
There's that aspect, because you don't want to sound like trash, you know, on the instrumentation, even though your words are good, you know. So for me, there was just this whole thing where it's like, I'm not exactly sure the best way to describe it or give it a metaphor, so I'm trying to keep it as matter of fact. I would say that making sure that, like, one, the concept of having the words on paper is right. Then two, making sure that the structure looks sound, and then going into the beat, you know, now you have to chisel away at the stone that you built, right? And that's the difficult part, because if you hit it the wrong way, it breaks the whole thing.
Or if it doesn't work with certain production.
And so where writing is like chiseling in stone, freestyling is like free-flowing water. You know, it just goes. And so like you don't have to be concerned about getting a hiccup or whatever like that, because you just pick up and you're just going, because you know that. And for me, it's just an ease of being able just to ride the beat like a surfer on the freaking wave. You can get a choppy flow of water, but then you can rebalance, calibrate, and you just keep going, and you land mad tricks and stuff. And then like everybody's like, dude, did you see that? You know, for me, it's like freestyling is all about kind of like how you finish, but like where you're writing, it's all about how you start, how the middle is, and then how it finishes. It's the whole package. It can't be. It just can't be this weird looking thing that's kind of cool to have. It's got to be like this thing that it's a finely polished gem, you know. So I guess I don't know if that really answers your question, but
No. That's perfect. And I noticed we'll get to the second freestyle. Like each part of it had like a certain skit in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that skit.
So like I the when I was, what was that? I forget what I was writing. I know it was one of the songs, but then I was just like, well, it's time for me to do a freestyle because like I was getting nowhere with the stuff that I was doing. And so of course I was just, I just recorded the moment where like I actually balled up the piece of paper. Right, and I was like, it's time for a freestyle session. And then boom,
So okay. We spoke a little bit about this track off camera. Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Right? Black Sheep is one of my favorite tracks on the album. And I will say, I feel like this is where you get to your stride to where you're saying, all right, we already know me, the freestyle, just me, the artists that have made me who I am today.
Yeah.
It influenced the motivation of the dare, getting into the booth. Now we're getting into the weeds, the roots, right, of Black Sheep. And I got a little emotional on Black Sheep because it felt like a conversation. That conversation piece in the beginning, right? And then you go into the rapping.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the next song because I feel like they're a little connected. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Black Sheep. Tell us about Black Sheep.
So Black Sheep, kind of like how we started this conversation about the
Right.
imposter syndrome
Right.
and everything, but this one's more home-based.
Okay.
Me and not only issues with like work and life, but this one was with my father, right?
Right.
And so I grew up in a family. I'm firstborn, right? I'm the first child, so the pride and joy and the apple of my father's eye, basically, right? But growing up, that apple started to rot in his eye, right? And I didn't conform to his overall expectation. Which happens.
Yeah.
Right, and then so like life happens, right? And then so you grow up, you get older, and then you see the person who you look up to and respect just kind of, I'm glad you're my son, but like it's like I don't know how I really feel about you, and it's just like I'll be there for you if you need something, but like, man, it's disappointment.
I'll actually sympathize with that because I feel like sometimes, how a mother's admiration for her son on the happiness and like you proving yourself, you develop your household, you have a wife, you have family, you're working, you're a hard worker. It means a lot when your mother feels that way, but sometimes something's missing when you don't feel the admiration from your father.
Right.
Like, show me, as a man, show me, Dad, like, are you proud of me? Am I doing the right thing? You know what I mean? God, now everything's God willing.
Yeah.
Like, everything's God tested.
Yeah.
As far as like, we're not gonna go anywhere off the string.
Right.
But it's always in the back of your mind of like, Dad, am I doing the right thing?
Right.
And then, because I feel like sometimes it's hard to ask those questions because maybe sometimes it becomes into some conversations he may not want to have.
Right.
And being a son, and you also being a son, I can understand where it's like, you kind of want those conversations, develop more of a closeness, right? Is that kind of your thought of what was going on?
So, yeah. So like there was never a point where like my father didn't have my back overall.
Right.
He loves grandbabies.
Right.
He loves his daughter-in-law,
Right.
So like from that aspect, like I had everything right.
Okay.
It was just what I was doing, like in his eye, I wasn't meeting his expectation. He wanted me to be this staunch example for my kids and for my wife. There's an overall expectation of exceptionalism that needed to be adhered to.
I agree.
And I wasn't meeting that, because I'm not the same person as my father.
Right.
And so that was a big portion of our hang up. And from an intellectual standpoint, I didn't meet his level of intelligence.
Okay.
My father was very much an open basin when it came to absorbing knowledge and being able to convey that information. As to me, it was like water hitting a brick.
Right.
Every now and again, a little trickle get into that jar, but the rest of it just slides right out.
So when you say that, do you feel like, when you say a level of intelligence, right? Was it? What is it? Okay.
Book smarts.
Okay.
Book smarts, definitely.
I assume. So what about the father-son relationship? Do you feel like that was missing too?
It definitely hampered our relationship.
Because I know we're not going to display what you do in real life,
right?
But what you do in real life, I feel like you've exceeded those expectations.
I think now I have, but going through it initially, like after being married, so I was very, very lucky. I got married. I was stationed overseas for about 5 years. 2 of my girls were born out there. We lived on base the whole time. It was like the perfect storm, like in a positive way, right? Coming back stateside, things started to fall apart. There were a lot of things that we had to transition into. It just became like an entire mess of a situation, and our relationship at that time was already kind of strained. I was trying to get him to come down, to come and visit, because he had been there before. He was stationed over there, right? So I was thinking we could have a good time, hang out and stuff, but then the effort wasn't there on that part, and I felt like I felt like I'm trying, right? But so it just didn't pan out. But when it came back, we worked on our relationship, like as father and son. There were a lot of fallouts. There were things that I made a crap ton of mistakes, right? But I'm always trying to make the adjustments. He couldn't see it because it didn't move at the pace that he would have done it for himself. So we were on 2 different speeds. He couldn't see it because he was moving in a whole different speed than I was, right? So that portion of it, I try to reflect that in the song, and not to say that before he passed we had a terrible relationship or anything like that. I think our relationship got stronger before he passed, and so at least I got to say my goodbyes to him, and I got to make sure that he knew that I loved him, right? And that no matter what, we're all imperfect, right?
And I got that, man. Where if that effort you feel like you didn't receive, man, it's just I felt that.
Right.
I felt that because no matter how much you try as a son, part of it is sometimes maybe, and I'm not saying this is what he felt, but in terms of dealing with that within the same experience, it's almost like because we didn't take the same route, we didn't do the same things, maybe either they didn't understand or could relate to it, but it's more of, okay, he's doing better than the way I ever would have done, but I can't give him that acknowledgement.
I would say maybe there's some truth to that statement, but I think the overall baseline of his expectations I wasn't hitting, and so because of that, there was always that strain, and I take fault in that. I could have done better as a person, but at the time when I was living in that moment, I didn't see it. It wasn't until I look back, right? And so taking that knowledge and that wisdom, I'm going to make sure that I'm imparting that to my girls, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
And so then that way, that way we don't have that kind of strained relationship as they get older and they become adults. I want them to make sure that they know that they can come to me or to their mother, and no matter how bad of a situation they made, I'm not gonna hold them responsible. We're gonna talk about it. How can you fix it? And then how can we support you while you're trying to fix that? And I think that was the conversation I never really got from my father, right? But it is something that I learned because of it. He was there for me, but that conversation, I didn't see it. So maybe because of that little factoid of wisdom that I'm talking about now, it was something that I learned without him having to say.
Right. And it also helps others.
Yeah.
It also helps other men and fathers that, I think this is very common.
Yeah.
I feel like this is very common, which goes into the next track, For My Dad.
Yeah.
Right. I assume, for obvious reasons, this is kind of some of the things you wanted to say to him.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
So my father passed back in 2019, right?
Okay.
And when he got sick real bad, and it happened real fast. And for like a moment, like when we knew, so his funeral was held off for a little bit because we were in COVID season,
Right.
and so he wanted to be buried in Arlington. So there was a wait, and I think it was about 7 months we had to wait.
Okay.
So like in that 7-month period, I took the time out to really try and express my feelings about everything. My wife was concerned that like I was going to have some kind of mental breakdown. I was working long hours, late nights.
Right.
I was supporting the Library of Congress at the time,
Right.
and I was the only IT guy there. So I was there from like 9 a.m. to like 1 a.m. So doing like 16 to 20 hour shifts was pretty common. They needed me to be around to help, but I wasn't there because I was working and supporting my family. So there was like a conflict of interest there, and I felt bad about it, and then I didn't feel bad about it because I knew what I had to do is what I had to do. But after he passed, I had like this, not like a reeling sense, but like I was in a sense of mourning without even realizing that I was mourning, right? So I took the time out to write what I wish I could have said to him, and then I turned that into a song. But then I was like, it didn't hit right. So then that's when I decided to do spoken word instead.
Okay. I was going to ask about that. Okay. And that was okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is there additional vocals from certain artists on this song?
So it's actually a recording of my dad with the grandkids playing in the background.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
So it's an accurate depiction of how we grew up as kids.
Okay.
And so
which is good.
Right.
Right.
So like I was watching like home videos and stuff of my dad and stuff, and I was just like, this is exactly what we did. Right. My dad was a good dad, right? So and as kids, we really got what a lot of my friends growing up didn't get to have. Right. And it makes me sad to think about that they missed out on that part, because when we were knee-high to a duck, basically, it was just like he was always body slamming us, playing, watching cartoons.
Right, yep.
Was it Saturday? It's time for Eggos.
Right.
Who's got that bowl of Cocoa Puffs? I mean, like this. It was. There were good times growing up as kids, and I wanted to really show the parts in those moments, the parts that I always think back when I think of my father.
Right.
And so I remember all the good times as a kid growing up, and those were the times where everything felt right. Even though I was maybe doing bad in school, or getting into trouble as kids will do.
Right.
At the end of the day, he just wanted to have a good time with his kids.
Right.
And that is what I remember more than anything else.
Nice. Okay, so then we go into Lord, I Need You.
Mm-hmm.
Lukewarm. Oh man, this is probably my favorite track. Second, it's a tie between this and Black Sheep. But Black Sheep kind of does it for me a little bit more. But Lord, I Need You. Man. Tell me about this track, because I love this track, man. Where, man, it just feels like a prayer with really, like you're at your last wits to say, I need you, Lord.
Yeah.
I think you should probably do this is probably this one, and also Monsters is probably one of the ones I would do probably a really video for. Right? I really like this track. So tell us a little bit about Lord, I Need You.
So,
and what the lukewarm kind of signifies.
So lukewarm, I'm a man I'm a Christian by faith.
Right.
Okay. So I believe in Jesus Christ, and He's my Lord and Savior.
Right.
And that's what I firmly believe.
Right.
Okay. If you have to take away anything from this interview, that is the one thing I'd want everybody to take away from right there. I just want. So like for me though, I'm a person who's been like baptized like 3 times. Okay. And I got it when I was a little kid. You don't understand when you're a little kid, right? You just know that you have to do it because your parents told you to do it. So I did it. What does that mean for me? I don't know. Going through life, I would say when I was in my 20s and like I kind of gave up on Christianity altogether. I didn't give up on the idea of an intelligent creator. I didn't give up on the idea of God in general. But I gave up on the idea of religion. And religion to me seemed, through my eyes at the time, seemed so phony. Like people are taking money from communities. They're not helping communities. You hear on other sides, children are being raped. They're being abused. Adults, same way, they're being taken advantage of. They're being abused, and it's just and they influence the political system. So there was just like this high level of corruption and religion that made me have a sour taste in my mouth. So going through like almost every single religion, trying to figure out where I fit in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't until a very, very good friend of mine, and she is a Muslim. All right, so that's her. She's a practitioner, right?
Right.
She got me back into Christianity. Okay, and it was just based off of a conversation that we had, and I'm not going to get into all that, but it was just, the conversation was so illuminating about like where my feet are really supposed to be and which direction I'm supposed to be walking, that I knew that I had to come back to Christ. And it wasn't religion that I came back to, it was Christ that I came back to. That's what she made me realize. And then so from there, I got baptized again. And that was like my third time getting baptized. And I knew it was for real that time, right? But like my connection to the word and to God just wasn't there. So the lukewarmness right there. Okay. Like I'm doing good works as much as I possibly can, saying my prayers and all that other stuff, but like I wasn't in the word. And so like it wasn't until maybe about like a year ago that it just really started hitting me. Like I don't feel like I had like a solid connection with God. Like I don't hear his voice. I know his blessings are around me, right? Just by the way that I'm living right now. I mean, like people would punch other people in the face to get to where I'm at. And like I don't feel like I was being attentive enough to God. I don't feel like I was being attentive enough to the word in front of me. My little brother Seneca, who is a devout follower of Christ, talks to me all the time about Christ and got me this awesome Bible, and like is always trying to sit and talk to me, and we do verses and we read stuff from time to time or whatever, but it wasn't based off my own intention to start the day or lead the day or end the day doing that.
It almost felt like a checklist.
Yeah. And then so it burned in my mind. Like I'm not honestly thankful enough to God for everything that I have. So now I'm trying to make it to where it's like one of the first things that I do in the morning, to where it's not just a checklist, but just part of me.
Nice. Okay.
So that's basically what that's about.
Nice. So we go into, and I feel like the tone of this album is perfect, right? You kind of go into, you're battling, and then you get into I Can Just Be Me, and then then the freestyle comes in.
Yeah.
And then we get Black Sheep, Lord I Need You, and then we go into the off the top freestyle. I'm assuming this is part 2?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is kind of like the connection between you and your daughter. Where, you hear your daughter, and then, it's kind of like, I gotta hurry up and do this before, everybody else gets home.
Yeah.
It's almost like, let me get this out before it gets noisy in the house.
Yeah.
Right? And I liked it. I feel like this is another one of my favorites as far as like, it's you don't hear a lot of interpretation and substance with. A lot of people have to hear it with the bars and the hooks and try to figure it out. But you're blatantly giving it to us, like everything I'm feeling, everything that's going on, I'm gonna let people know. So tell us about Off the Top Freestyle.
So that was another one. So like my wife is like super supportive, right?
Right.
It's like like I'll let her know, hey babe, I'm gonna work on some music. You guys want to go to the mall, whatever. She's like, yeah, we'll go. Yeah, we'll go to the mall, no problem.
Is it the mall or is it? Don't tell her I said that.
No, and so the my oldest daughter, who you hear, she is a lover of music. She makes her own beats.
Right.
She got some on there. I'm like, what the what? I was trying to get her to make me a beat so I could put it on the record.
Right.
And then she's like, I don't know what to say. I'm so nervous. And I'm like, put something together,
Right.
But so I asked her and Izzy, who's the middle. I was like, you guys want to be in here for a minute? And they're like, yeah. And then so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and do something, and you guys just react to what I'm doing. And then so that was that whole interaction right there. And then I was like, dang, she kind of hurt my feelings right there, But I'm like, good, that's perfect, because I expect a level of criticism in whatever I'm doing. If I'm doing something that doesn't sound right, doesn't look right, doesn't smell right, or whatever like that, tell me. I will throw it out and restart all over again, right? So I wanted to kind of keep that in there, because I was trying, again, the whole struggle with me is writing out lyrics, right, and making it where it sounds good to the instrumentation, and it wasn't it. Right. So,
And now that you mentioned that, right, and it made me automatically think of you when you mentioned before, you looking at a lot of how you and your father on Saturdays looking at different videos and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're getting.
Yeah,
all these skits.
Yeah,
right, creating your own memories with your daughters. So I thought that was real dope. Seems like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Another one of my favorite tracks.
He's got a lot of favorites.
I'm looking here. Seems like yesterday. It's just kind of like you're just pretty much letting all the memories out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, about 7-8 years ago, I am again talking about where I was working out with the Library of Congress and things like that. I was the only IT person there, and at the time, I was just starting. I was probably maybe like 6 months into the job, and imposter syndrome was just running wild in my head. I was hired on as a sysadmin, but then when I got there, the government introduced me as a network engineer, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm making some decent money now, and I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna try and fulfill every wish you guys are looking for, right?
Right.
So Google had become my best friend at the time, okay? So I'm like, yeah, no problem. I can get those switches. I can get that router. I can get whatever. The server's up, no problem. I got it. And I would be at work 1, 2 a.m., making sure that it was good. Nobody could say anything. But at the time, in my head, I was like, man, you shouldn't be doing this job. If it's taking you this long to get it right, then maybe you should think about doing something else. And I'm like, no, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. So it was a constant battle, just talking to myself, almost feeling like I was insane. Because those voices were getting as loud as if somebody talking in your ear at times. I'm just like, dude. So anyway, I had a really bad PM, and a funny story. I had to get another guy off him from almost hitting him in the face. That's how bad he was. It was insane. But this guy literally called me. I was on my way home. I was probably about like 2 or 3 hours over where I was supposed to be. Just getting out of traffic southbound without having. This is before Easy Pass kicked in. So after 3:30, you stuck.
Right.
You're stuck, and it was probably like 7:30, 8 o'clock. The sun was getting ready to set, and I was just happy that I could get home and just hang out, because my wife was like, yeah, you're coming home, and I was like, yeah, my wife wants me to come home, all right.
Right.
My kids are all sounding cute in the background and stuff, and I just wanted just to hang out, play games, watch cartoons, whatever, just to forget about the day, because there's just some crazy stuff going on, and all I could do was think about work at the time. But then around that same time, though, I was having financial issues. I was balancing everything on my own. I was looking for support, and at the time, I just wasn't getting it, and I felt like I was just losing on all ends, So I was just trying to immerse myself in moments instead of paying attention and acknowledging everything that was going on at one time. So if I was having a fallout with my wife, I wasn't thinking about the fallout. I was just thinking about, oh, she's happy to see me. So I'm just going to enjoy that moment.
Right.
Oh, my kids see me walking through the door, they're going to grab on my legs and they'll be like, Dad, and I'm going to be like, I'm just going to enjoy that moment. So I was living for positive moments.
Right.
But you can only do that for so long before reality actually comes and freaking hits you on the head one more time with that sledgehammer. And I was at that point, and this was the second time in my life where I thought about ending it. And it was like, oh, I can get a gun, no problem. I can just end it right now. It's that easy. And I was sitting in the bathroom, and that very thought crossed my head so hard, and it was just like, okay, well, I know exactly where to procure a weapon. I can be done with this in 45 minutes. But then at the same time, something happened in that space and time. Something happened, like I prayed unintentionally, and as soon as I prayed, whatever I prayed, my mom's image popped in my head. Every conversation we had about the issues that she was dealing with my father, everything that we had ever talked about to help her get through her day, her situation, her negative moments, things that she had to deal with her in-laws, with her parents, with people at work, everything flooded. And I was like, I am useful. Right. I'm worth having around because people find value and worth in me. Right. And I couldn't see it anymore. I just couldn't. It was like at that point where the voices, the demons, the monsters, everything just screaming at me to end it, die, was just so overwhelming that I couldn't even acknowledge it. It was like taking aspirin for a headache that just wouldn't go away permanently. It would just keep coming back. Right. And so like that's kind of like, that's what that song was.
Okay. Like yesterday. All this was, I assume all this was in the span of one day.
This song, yes, was all a span of one day, literally. I captured that whole day.
And I was like, man, I felt that pain. Because we've had extensive conversations as far as like, suicidal thoughts. You get here and all in the canvas. And I don't have any children yet, but man, it's just good to see that when you prayed about it and you felt like you didn't find your purpose, other people around you see your purpose.
Right.
But you didn't. It's hard, you being in a situation, to know and to acknowledge that. So man, wow. Okay. So then we get into Monsters, which again, Where's the Love, is probably another track. I love the hook on this. Mm-hmm. I love the way it started out. So tell us a little bit about Monsters, Where's the Love?
So as you know, we have a political system here where it causes people just to be
a lot of division, a lot of different social issues.
And there's just a lot of terrible things that come out of good people, I guess you could say. And I mean, not every person's a good person. Some people just came out the woodwork, but regardless. Right. So this one really hit me after the Obama administration, right? Okay. I was just watching, listening to what people were saying, and I was just like, how can you sit there and criticize, somebody who was the first to do what he had to do, to overcome, be in a position of power, and y'all are talking trash about that guy.
Right.
And it like this whole song was just like, it just made me realize after that administration was over, and then I watched like how the media was starting to portray parties and political affiliations. One side of news was giving you one perspective, another side of news was giving you another perspective, and another side of news was giving you like weird, broken pieces of perspective, and like to the point where it was just like, it's easy to fool the masses and turn people against each other when, instead of recognizing that we're all Americans flying under this, and we all fly the same banner, right? And we were in constant battle with one another. Our neighbors we couldn't get along with. You can't walk down the street without being like, oh, this person loves Obama. Oh, this person loves Trump. Oh, this person loves Biden. Oh, this person loves whoever, And I mean, like, and so what it did was it caused so many. I mean, like, it's not even really division on the simple scale of the word. It was just like chaos and turmoil, and like it was like red flags, black flags being thrown out, and it was just like you didn't feel safe walking out in the daylight, because of what entities were telling you certain people, certain political affiliations, certain groups of people were doing or what they were about, to the point where it was almost lying to you,
Right.
Or like in a way of meddling with the truth to a way that fit like a particular narrative.
Right.
And so I feel, as a prior service member and as somebody who's come up from like 3 generations of service members, I feel an unease where I live at.
Okay.
I love America, and I feel like people should love America if they're Americans, right? But it's to the point now where Americans, in a lot of cases, don't love where they're at anymore because of everything that we're going through, because of everything that we're told to be afraid of, what we're told that we need to watch out for, when the character and the integrity and the content of a person's character should be the things that we are paying attention to. Everything else should be sidelined, but now we're at a point where we can't even acknowledge those simple things anymore. And so that's where Monsters really came from.
Okay. You acknowledging, but also giving your opinion on kind of the social issues.
Yeah.
Where is the love? Where is it? And I was like, man, I like this song. You don't hear these type of songs anymore where a lot of people with these type of social issues play it safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's very safe. It's very and especially now, today, after us previously having an election, it's really, in my opinion, a little bit overreacting right now. It's really out there now as far as kind of, you love this person. Why? This reason, that reason. It's very like overreacted, and people are just, I think, because of people's, we tend to forget that it is a choice. It's their choice, their opinion. But I feel like when people don't agree with that, their opinion or their choice, you tend to want to shut them out. You tend to want to make them feel like their opinion is not, matter anymore.
Right.
And I feel like social media has kind of made that.
Yeah.
I know we don't know social media, but social media has kind of made that to where like you're wrong. And I'm gonna let the people agree with me so much to make you feel like that you're really wrong.
Right.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we have a divide. Not to get off subject, but I feel like that's one of the reasons why we do have a divide. A lot of people feel a certain type of way. They want to make others, feel like whatever you say you're wrong. You're almost developing some type of an army.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been, and social media has definitely been weaponized.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we get into Stay Fresh. Stay Fresh. My notes on this was like, I have it here, parentheses, this is you. This beat, very West Coast type of beat. I was like, no, this is D.E.M.O. And I was like, this is who he is. This is his fun. This is a fun track.
Yeah.
You just wanted. I had a thing of he just wants to have fun.
Yep.
Let's bring the fun back into this. Is that where Stay Fresh? Tell us a little bit about Stay Fresh.
So, Stay Fresh was an unintentional West Coast track.
Right.
I loved the track, and I just didn't realize that it was West Coast sounding until after I was done. Right. I played it for a friend of mine, and he was like, "Dude, that's a dope West Coast beat." Got right there, and I'm like, "You're right!
Right.
Oh my gosh, what the hell?
Right.
Yes, I got a West Coast track up in here because I was like, I gotta find a West Coast track. I found some really good West Coast tracks that I was like, okay, I got a song for this one, I got a freestyle for this one, I can do this one. And when I did Stay Fresh, I was like, perfect, because like that, my friend's comment made it even more valid for me, and I was like, now I don't have to try anymore because it was. I wanted to give props back to the West Coast because my first mainstream rapper that like I would say that I listened to consciously was Ice-T. The Cop Killer album for me, I was like, what the flip am I listening to? And I kept going back and back, and like keep in mind, I'm like freaking 11, 12 when this thing came out, right? And I'm
Was
just
that kind of your inspiration for the album a little bit? Or just
no,
the song?
no, but it was just I always want because like Ice-T, Cube,
Right.
freaking Tupac. These were like three guys
Right.
that like I really looked up to, and they're all West Coast, and you always feel like you need to represent the coast that you come from.
Right,
I'm a
right.
49ers fan,
Right.
and I just really, I was really hoping that I could put it on there. But if it didn't come to pass, and it wasn't going to come to pass, it was just, it was a happy accident, I guess you could say.
Okay.
But like the verse itself was just completely just me just having
fun.
Yeah.
Right, and it worked. I was like, I was like, oh, this is the right.
So like not having the chorus in there, not putting a hook in there was just me. Back in the day, he's the DJ, I'm the rapper.
Right.
All their tracks,
and it worked. It worked.
Yeah, not a single hook, and I was like, I wanted to do that,
right?
Because I wanted to kind of take it back,
right.
So
and Stay Fresh, of course, was kind of that throwback.
Yeah,
right. So tell the last track here, Till Next Time.
So that was just it's just a big goodbye until next time. You know,
right.
This isn't going to be the last thing you see of me, but I'm just glad that you made it to the end of the album, basically.
Right. So, what's when I heard this track, I was like, man, Till Next Time. It's kind of like, are you saying goodbye to a lot of those demons? Saying, hey, are you saying like, I still recognize it there, but it's more to come. It's more to.
I am now. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. From that will be the narrative from now on. The title plays on many different levels.
Right.
It was me just kind of stepping out, letting people know that, look, I see a lot of the fakeness in the industry, right? And a lot of people get caught up in their own lies, their own fire, that's created by these false narratives that they create for themselves as artists. They're trying to be something that they're not.
Right.
And I want to let people know that metaphorically, I'm going to step on their neck, and that's, so don't think that just because this is over that I'm not coming back, because next time it's going to come back and I'm going to have something even more dynamic for you, and I wanted to at least leave the impression that like this music thing I take seriously. And so like the next album is not going to sound like this one. In my head, it's already evolved. Like this whole last year and a half, actually orchestrating it, arranging it, and putting together the other tracks that needed to follow that 4-year trail for Black Sheep really has kickstarted my evolution as an artist who can now write much better. And writing much better comes from a lot of assistance from one of my homies that lives out in Detroit, Eddie Ace. And he really helped me with my syllable counts, stuff like that, and just making sure that I'm attentive to breaths and things of that nature. And so like making sure that like I'm perfect, in a sense of like delivery and whatnot. So like this was the last thing that I kind of needed to be the cherry on top.
Right.
Because like it was gonna end with the track before with Stay Fresh, right? That was going to be the last one, but I felt like it just needed something, right? And
I felt that, yeah.
And this track, Till Next Time, is heavily, although it doesn't sound like it, a big nod to Norman Sand. He's become a very favorite artist of mine now, and like I listen to all his stuff, and like I wanted to have something that sounded as open and as free as his stuff, because it was just very inspiring to me, and I wanted to be able to do something like that too,
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. So tell us about, what's D.E.M.O got going in the future? What's going to be features, future projects? What?
So as it stands right now, I know that Inverse Tangent, we're working on something.
Working on a project's coming,
and I'm just excited to get that going. I've already got some things ready to go for the next project.
Right.
But the direction can always change.
Right.
But it's not to say that something's not coming out within like the next year or two.
Right.
So I know I've learned that this is a process, and it's so incredibly important not to rush it. Now, if you can freaking knock out 4 or 5 tracks over a weekend or something like that, and it sounds great, then more power to you, you know. But like for me, it was definitely a journey, and a cathartic one, you know, at that, and being able to go back and listen to it, almost to the point where I didn't want to listen to it anymore because I had to listen to it. I learned sound engineering from Soul Logic. I learned to go back, like when you listen to some of the stuff, you're like, no, that can be better, you know. And I'm like, okay, well then I'm gonna go back because I don't want Philosophical to come back and be like, you know, like tell me that I need to go back and do it again because I'm about to be pissed off, you know. And then Destruct always just making me feel like I need to push the envelope on myself because that dude, his skill set is like this mountain that I've tried to climb. And I'm just like, ooh, I know. You know. And then so, you know, when he put his album out earlier this year, I was like, what the flip? And then when he wanted me to be on there, I was like, what the flip? You know. So I'm just like, dude, it's amazing and inspiring, and all of you guys have just made me go leaps and bounds just to do this. I would have never thought this was possible ever, absolutely ever. And it just goes to show that, you know, the circles that you keep influence the things that you do. And so, like, I'm just glad that I'm in these circles.
Well, I will say, I didn't mention it. I mentioned it now. That Till Next Time, I really appreciate the love. Because you kind of, what you just said, you spoke about that on Till Next Time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, man, we really, I will say that this album will probably be on my top albums of the year.
Yeah.
You know, along with these tracks and Soul Logic. I'm still working on that list. But as far as features, make sure you guys reach out to him directly. His handle and social media will be down in the description box. Like you said, Verse Tangent's coming out on that project, and I'm pretty sure he's got more music coming out in the way. Make sure you guys follow him. Listen to this album. It's available on all platforms. That will also be in the description box. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And if you want your music reviewed here, whether that may be a track or a new album, or you want to be interviewed here on the channel, we can definitely get you here on the show, where we give authentic and honest feedback, and we can definitely set up an interview, set up tracks. Also, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Any final thoughts, D.E.M.O?
All collabs are free, so if anybody wants to collab, I'm always down to do the music thing. Just let me know.
Yep, definitely. I'm Philosophical from the R.A.P Review Room, y'all. I appreciate D.E.M.O coming on the show, interviewing, and we out, y'all. Peace.